and thank you for joining us here today on WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul, and this is the Adam Messer Show. I'm your host, Adam Messer, and this is the second hour with my special guest today, musician, artist, entertainer, actor, Jay Harris. Welcome back, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, dude, I had such a great time talking the first hour about your new single, Falling Tonight, your music career, you know, the fact that you mentor, well, I don't want to say kids, but young people from Berkeley College, and that you're, you know, exploring. You said Ryan Jumper, is that your partner?
Yes, Ryan
okay,
Jumper.
so you all are going to be doing some kind of new mentorship thing coming up in the future. And so I'm pretty excited about that. Everybody tuning in. So Jay has a new single called Falling Tonight. And let me pull it back up. I've got it on, I actually purchased it on Amazon Prime Music, so it's in my collection now. But we're going to play Falling Tonight, everybody. And then Jay and I were going to talk more about his musical career, and then also some of the like stuff like behind the scenes stuff that he's been sharing with us, and also, you know, like other stuff that, you know, we'll get into. So let me pull up Falling Tonight.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. All right, this is Falling Tonight, everybody, by Jay Harris.
It's getting dark outside and I need somebody to hold. Just for the night, not trying to set nothing in stone. Oh, I don't wanna complicate it, no. Just need something convenient to go. I like my space, but every now and then, baby, you can come over. Oh, you can call it whatever you want it, just nothing solid. We're here for the moment. I like my money and power, but you're the one I want for the hour. Give me all your love, but temporary. Won't be no falling tonight. Give me all your love, but temporary. Commitment is about all I don't wanna fight. Love, but temporary. Won't be no falling tonight. That's just the way emotions go. Long as you know you'll be fine. Won't be no falling tonight. Let's not play one another. Both know we don't have time to really be with each other. Let's not tell that lie. I'd like to, I'll blind you. I don't wanna cross that line. As long as we stay on this road, nobody has to be broken. You can call it whatever you want it, just nothing solid. We're here for the moment. I like my money and power, but you're the one I want for the hour. Give me all your
All right, everybody, that is Jay Harris's new single, Falling Tonight. And we have the man himself here with us in the studio, live on the phone in the studio, but we are live right now. So, Jay, tell us about that new single. So for the folks just tuning in, we did a whole hour before, so you can go back and catch the podcast later on. But tell us about this new single, man.
Yeah, so Falling Tonight, the way that came together, like most of our sessions with my business partner and co-producer for this project, Ryan Jumper, the way that song came about is I'd worked with the producer. His name is Leon, but he goes by the name Laird Beats. And so he and I had gotten together, and I'd kind of shared with him, the concept of what I was, thinking about for the song, which is basically talking about, not being available for a relationship because you're working on the things that you're working on. And for me, it was music, and we're all out here, working on something, whether it's entrepreneurship or whatever our creative or business vice, whatever it is that we want to do, we're working on that. And, when he gave me, I gave him the concept, told him what I was doing, and heard the music. I went into the studio, and I had my lyrics there, and I just began to, try to follow the patterns of the music and tell my story. And that's how it came together. And I love how it turned out.
Oh yeah, dude! I was catching myself singing along with the hook. Give me all your love, but temporary. I was like,
I got you.
I'm like, man, look at this. Hey, I love that though, because it's so honest and so real. It's like just, hey, and I love the fact that you talk about like the backstory there, because that is, I mean, like, we are all so busy anymore.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to make something, and it doesn't necessarily have to be entertainment. It could be anything. Like you could be, you could be. For example, like when I was going to school, I was working full time and going to school. I wanted to, get my degree, and you have to sacrifice other things to focus on your goals, and you have to do the work.
Oh,
I mean,
that's so true.
And relationships are like hard sometimes if you're.
They are. Because they're a full-time, you've got to be actively involved full-time. But one thing you just mentioned was sacrifices. And, that's not, but and it's interesting because a lot of people don't talk about that, because that's not the glamorous side of success. You know what I mean? But sacrifices are so uniquely important to really trying to reach your goal. And it doesn't always have to be a relationship, but you have to sacrifice other areas. I would have friends who were going, while I was working on this project, who went out of the country and wanted me to go out the country for vacation, or there were different events that were happening. But I knew that by me going out of the country, well, that's money I can put into the project. Or me going to an event, well, that's time I could be spending in the studio. And so I had to make those difficult sacrifices for the ultimate goal. And the sooner you realize how important it is, the different perspective you'll have about sacrificing, for the bigger picture.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. That you're talking like kind of piggybacking off of that with sacrificing, because anything that we want to do in life, it's a trade-off. Your time for whatever you're working on, right? And so for example, like you do modeling, you're very physically fit. That's a sacrifice. That's like you're like you have a certain way that you want to be. Who you are, and you're like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I could go on this vacation to Italy or wherever, or I could keep focusing on what I've got to do and then go to Italy later. And I think it's a trade-off, because you can't just sacrifice and never enjoy life as you're living.
Right.
But you can't just live for today and then that's, don't worry about tomorrow.
Exactly.
It's a counterbalance. I mean, it's like, yes, you should enjoy yourself. You should live life and don't say no to everything. But also, I mean, it's like if you're going to have a cookie, have one cookie or two cookies. Don't eat the box of cookies.
The whole box, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and especially when you're working on something that's big to you, and you feel like it's your life work, it's your destiny, or it's your purpose, your passion. You sacrificing those things, are nothing compared to the reward of
Mm-hmm.
finally reaching your goal. And then you can go on as many trips as you want to go on. I think it's so interesting that I opted out of, different trips with my friends, not all of them, but some trips with my friends, maybe out of the country, to spend time working on this project, because
Mm-hmm.
here it is, 2020, unbeknownst to any of us, we're in COVID-19, and you couldn't go out of the
Right.
country. You
Right.
can't go out of the country if you wanted to,
Right.
but my single was released in the midst of COVID-19, but
Yeah.
only because I'd made those sacrifices,
You
prior
did the
to
work.
now. And so I
Yeah.
did the work, and I can still fortify in an area that, that otherwise I wouldn't be able to do had I not made those sacrifices.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And, something else too, Jay, like pipeline stuff. Like filling the
Mm-hmm.
pipeline, because, as we set goals, as we work towards those goals, as we achieve those goals or not, because that happens too.
Right. Right.
Filling the pipeline up, or not, I don't want to sound generic. Okay. So, constantly having, a moving flow back and forth with
Mm-hmm.
your work,
Mm-hmm.
your goals,
Yeah.
your things like that, because I'll be honest with you, there have been times in my life where I've, focused so intensely on a goal that when I
Yeah.
reached that goal, I was like, great, now what?
Yeah. 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 I totally understand. I do. I understand that.
So what's your take on
I've
that?
Yeah, I've been in that place before. And one thing, it goes back down to that mentorship,
Mm-hmm.
because I told someone the other day that, or I was telling them in regards to my mentees, I asked them, I said, when you are setting out, to accomplish this goal, you want to think about, why I want to reach this goal. Do I want to reach this goal to satisfy my ego? Do I want to reach this goal to to have a certain amount of money? But then why do I want that money? You really have to understand the purpose for why you're going after something. That way, because when you're pursuing purpose, it will continually serve you. And so that's something that I'm beginning to learn, is to kind of question myself for why I want certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all want money, we all want to live a certain lifestyle, but I believe when you're working on purpose or things that you are passionate about, eventually the monetary things, they just kind of come, and that reward just kind of comes to you. So for me, I try to set goals that I feel are in alignment with my purpose, so that those goals continue to serve me, so that I don't finally get something and be like, okay, well, all right, I got it now. Now what? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and what
so
happened to me was, I'll give you an example. Like this is like a time in my life that that exact thing happened, where I was like, okay, I've reached this goal. Now what?
mm-hmm.
I graduated with my undergrad at 31. I think it was. I was 31 years old, so I was a little older in life.
Mm-hmm.
I was working full time, going to school full time,
Mm-hmm.
had a family, wife and kids. And I graduated in November of 2008. And that's when the housing market crashed, right?
Yes.
That's when we had the recession and all that, and it took it took several years for everything to come back. Well, I got this degree, and so it's my undergrad, and it's like, oh yeah, get your degree, get a better job automatically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Didn't happen.
That's the idea.
Didn't happen. So what I did was, I was like, okay, if I'm going to stay where I'm working, I'm going to keep investing in my education. So right after I finished my undergrad, I went straight into my master's in business administration. And then it was still like, this is like 2 years later, it was still like, just not working out. And the schools, I worked at a for-profit school system, and those schools started kind of imploding left and right, to the fact that the ones that I worked for are no longer there. So
wow.
And so I kept investing in my education though, right? And then fast forward to 2014, that's when I was like, okay, I've got to do something with my creativity. I mean, like, I started getting into photography and talking about that purpose in life. It's like I knew, like, I think we all have multiple levels of purpose, right? So
Absolutely.
being a father and being a husband, that's
Absolutely.
rock solid for me. Like I have no,
Absolutely.
shivering, quaking, moving, nothing.
Yep.
I know exactly who I am with that and what I need to do.
Absolutely.
With
Yep.
my career goals,
Mm-hmm.
it was okay. I got to do a station ID real quick. Everybody, I can't believe it's already been 15 minutes, Jay. I feel like I could talk to you forever, man.
I know,
Oh,
right?
gosh.
It's a good conversation.
Everybody, you listen to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. Okay, so picking back around with that purpose thing. Okay, so I've had a lot of friends in my life talking, to, that kind of thing. Purpose, though, is one of those, again, it's one of those terms that people throw around a lot.
Yeah.
And, they're... I love how you described it because you were very specific and very oriented. But a lot of times people will say purpose and they'll just like throw it out there as like a buzzword. Okay.
Right.
And
right.
for me, yeah, it's like that. It's like, so the fact that you've mentored and you give back, is, to me, it shows a lot because it's not just you're focusing on, okay, here are my goals. Here's what I, and being true to myself. And this is this is how I want to present myself, to the world or whatever. But giving back also, because I love that. I love giving back. Yeah. And so for me, when I started doing my creative stuff, I started writing for the paper as a freelance journalist. And I've always focused my articles around the person. So that led to me writing and doing other stuff. I decided I wanted to do some, creative writing and that kind of thing. 2 years ago, I started doing this radio show, and I use the same formula or the same format where I focus on the person. So like here it is. I'm still writing for the newspaper as a freelance journalist. I've been on this radio show. I've had my radio show for the last 2 years, and I've had an opportunity to meet, and talk with incredible and amazingly talented people, like yourself and other folks that have been on the show. And it all, for me, my purpose has come back around because I do electrical work as my day job, right? Right. And so I love doing that, and I enjoy doing that because it pays the bills, and I enjoy that kind of work. Of course. My creative side is another purpose that I have in life. It's like I love, connecting with people like yourself. I mean, like, dude, we haven't talked like physically. I know, right? Yeah, we haven't talked, it's just like you said earlier, it's like we just pick right up. Yeah. So Jay, when you're talking, and I know this sounds crazy, but often we think of like mentoring as like an older person to a younger person, right? No, yeah. But it can be any. I feel like it could be, when we say younger, it could be someone who's new to an industry. So you could actually mentor somebody who's older than you. So can you talk about like that? Because I'm sure that, most of the college students you have are younger, but can you talk about like, that relationship building, and the helping those people find their purpose, not just any young person or old person. Cause it can go out to anybody, really.
Anybody. And, I thank you for sharing your story. Cause for me, there were so many different nuggets in there, because I feel like you were doing what we all do. We want to get a degree to get a better job. And, we think that's how the world is outlined. It's fashioned. You go to school.
That's what we're sold. That's the idea we're sold on.
Exactly. And so, whereas I feel like, but I do feel like, because we all reach that point in our lives. Well, hopefully, a lot of us reach that point in our lives, and hopefully it's sooner than later, but we reach a point where we're like, you know what? I've been doing this or that, for maybe several years, and it's like, I gotta be honest, I feel like there's more to my life than this, or I feel like, while I've enjoyed this job, I've made a lot of money, so on and so forth, but am I really truly fulfilled, so on and so forth? So what I am confident that your journey and you going through all those different steps played a huge part in you reaching the place where you're at now, because you even sharing that story and talking about your the moment where you realized when you should kind of transition and you utilize the talents that you have on the creative side. That honestly, that is what mentorship is. It's cutting a few steps for the next person who may have had the same thought or idea of saying, I want to do this particular thing in life, but society tells me I should do this or I should do that, but ultimately, to be fulfilled, I should focus on the talents that I have, so on and so forth. So for me, when it comes to mentorship, it literally is talking about, and it doesn't have to be entertainment, but it's sharing your experiences, in a particular industry or a particular field of life, and it can be parenthood, it can be anything that you have experience in. But for me in particular, with these students in entertainment, now mind you, they're singers, songwriters, they're vocal producers, they're graphic designers, they're entertainment law, they're public relations. There are all these different, fields of the entertainment industry. And with mentorship, my approach is to say, hey, here are all my mistakes. So, I don't get me wrong, it's rewarding, it's glamorous and all sorts of things, but you see that everywhere. I want to tell you about my journey and all of my mistakes, because while you will make your own mistakes, because we all have to make them to get to where we're supposed to be at, you can avoid these particular areas, along your journey, because I'm giving you some insight to the mistakes I made, or not even just mistakes, but some of the routes that I took that were not as, they weren't as effective, or they didn't, I could have, went about it another way. So I get to share that with people who are trying to work in an industry that I'm already, a part of, or an industry that I'm already
that you're already working in. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's my approach to mentorship. But I have come across the occasional person who may come to me and say, well, I'm honestly not really clear about what my purpose is. And that's a very unique feeling and question to have, because it's easy when you see somebody who can sing, you can automatically say, oh, well, maybe they can sing, that's clear. Or maybe there's just something that's so obvious, which it doesn't always mean is their purpose. But you got people who think, well, that's clear, that's obvious. And I always tell my mentees, or just anyone who is like, I'm not quite sure about my purpose, and this is not the only answer to that, but I do think that you finding out what your purpose is, it is, I say it's something that's attached to something that you're passionate about. And it doesn't always have to be entertainment. It can be helping others, or the well-being of others. It can be, teaching people a different skill, whatever it is, but something that you're passionate about. And follow me on this. A lot of times, and you may not even recognize it, because it's something that you just do. It's just normal to you. But a lot of times, I say something that you're passionate about. One of the Latin and Hebrew root words for passion the meaning is to suffer. So if it's something that you're willing to suffer for, or something that you're willing to endure hardship for, that is also an indication that it is tied to your purpose. Also,
something you're willing to sacrifice for.
You're willing to sacrifice for, exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
And whether you're doing it if you get paid or not, but you still love doing it. So that's also an indicator as well.
I love that you shared that, because I don't know how to say it, but passion it's like when you love something and you're not forced to love it. Or it's like one of those things where, like, after the puppy love phase falls away, you're still loving it. You want to learn something new about it every day, because you're curious about it, and you're like, wow, it's like almost like you're nerding out about it. It's like, oh, did you know that?
Exactly.
You geek out about whatever it is that you love, and you're like, oh man, did you know that if you just did this one little thing, it makes everything else different, and it's learning those little nuances about it. So I love that. And the same thing when I, something I like too, Jay, when working with people, that they'll say, I'm not really sure about what I want to do or whatever, because I talk to different folks too. I don't do necessarily mentorship per se like that, but I do offer help if people need it.
Of course.
When somebody asks or they'll talk to me about it, and I'll say, well, what are you interested in? Because that's where you first start with that curiosity. Yeah. It's like, well, what are you curious about? What do you have an interest in? What would you like to learn more about? So you can explore that. And I love telling people this. You're not going to have all the resources. But if you're resourceful, if you learn how to become resourceful, then you'll be able to, take a step forward. You're going to fall. We're all going to fail. Yep. We all fail.
Absolutely.
But picking yourself back up and, moving forward, I think that's another way to kind of explore your passion and then also learning when to say no and cutting it and saying, you know what, I've done this and this is really not my thing, even though I love telling people this, not to spend a ton of money on start with what you have, where you're at, and go from there.
Exactly.
You don't have to have a fancy computer. You don't have to have the best software. You don't have to have any of that stuff. The things don't matter because those things, technology changes. Like the iPhone that we're talking to on right now, this wasn't even available 15 years ago.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, so things change, right? So I love the fact that you brought that up and you were talking about, working on those things, because being able to say, oh, I've got this, the root word of it is to suffer. I love that because I don't think suffering, people would think of that. They don't. It's doing the work part of it that I think of. I'm not talking about oh man, I'm so beaten up and
not like that.
Yeah, but if you're willing to just say okay, I'm going to do this even when it's not enjoyable.
Right.
It's just like any relationship, because people, you get that puppy dog love at first. The folks that stick it out are the ones that can work through conflict.
Exactly.
That can communicate, and so.
And when you're working towards something of longevity, no matter what it is, you can expect there will be some turbulence. But your commitment to always working through that is what's going to give you longevity in the long run in anything.
Yeah, it making that commitment. There's, I'm sure there's times for you that you're like, you know what, I've got time to do at the studio, but I'm just not feeling it today.
Yep, that's so true.
I know there's times for me where I'm like, I know I need to write, but I'm just not feeling it today. I'm just not feeling it. Like, honestly,
absolutely.
When I woke up this morning, I wasn't feeling the best in the world, and I was like, I don't feel like doing the radio show today. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to, and we're having a great time. You know what I mean? I wouldn't miss this for the world. Even though,
same.
Yeah, even though my feeling this morning when I woke up was like, oh man, I don't feel good. Yada yada yada. Our brains automatically want us to take the shortcuts.
Exactly, they do. They're just like, why would you work so hard? But no, I'm with you. They do. But that commitment, that persistency is what is what really propels you to the next level and just fortifies whatever it is that you're doing.
I love it. Talking about the fact that you sacrifice time to produce this new album that you've got.
Right.
You've been spending, years. You spent years on it. And here it is. None of us could have predicted 2020's, stuff.
Right.
And here you have, this great song, coming out, and you've got your EP, where you've got something to show for the years of work that you've been doing.
Exactly. And you can tell when people have spent time on something because it's the quality of the product.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And so, and that's something that I'm most proud of. Like when you told me earlier, you listened to it and you were impressed, by the vocals, by the lyrics, by the sound, but also by the professionalism of the sound, like the sonic quality of the music. All those things are things that I literally thought about. And so when people, like yourself, listen to it and you say, oh, this is great in all these different areas, it's the greatest reward because that's the hard work. That's the years of striking at it to make sure that I can refine it and make it right, and to where I feel like, okay, there is nothing else I can do to this that would make it any better. So now I can release it and let it go.
I want to talk about that right after the break too. Specifically talking about when to say, all right, it's polished enough. It's time to move on. So I want to hit that real quick before we go, Jay, one of the things, like when I first heard the song, I was like, oh, Jay can sing. I was like, Jay's a real singer. That's one of the things that, like, I'm telling you, for me, it's a big turnoff if I hear, like, you know, Pro Tools, if I hear any of that stuff, I'm like, I mean, I don't mind the digital beats and all that. I love that.
Right.
But like, if I hear something that like the voice sounds kind of phony, and I'm like, I'm just, it's a big turnoff for me. I'm just like, nope.
I get it.
You know, so that's one of the things I loved about, you know, hearing you is that, you know, you're actually a legit singer. So
thank you so much,
everybody. We're having the luxury of being able to talk with Jay Harris today. So thank you for tuning in. We are going to do our station identity stuff. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Many critical issues are facing the residents of Savannah and all Americans, including the coronavirus, homeschooling, and the upcoming general election. WRUU has 3 programs which address these issues: The Common Good on Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m., The Happy Homeschooler on Wednesdays from 2 to 3 p.m., and We the People, The Constitution Today on Sundays from 8 to 9 p.m. Stay informed about these important issues by tuning into these programs on WRUU. From our cobblestone streets to our stately homes, discover Savannah's maritime history and what makes Savannah, Savannah. One of the hidden secrets of Savannah is the Gardens of the Ships of the Sea Museum. Picnic here and enjoy our complimentary Wi-Fi. More information can be found at shipsofthesea.org.
WRUU 107.5 FM is a new and different listener-supported and all-volunteer community radio station for Savannah. Our diverse broadcast and web programming is supported by generous listeners who value our passion and spunk. We are independent of other media and receive no government or large corporate support. People like you are our largest and most important source of our funding. Go to WRUU.org to find out how you can make a one-time or a monthly contribution. Thank you.
This is WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. This is Kinski, from the album Live at WFMU, April 22nd, 2003.
All right, everybody, we are back, and thank you so much for tuning in today. You are listening to WRULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And this is the Adam Messer Show. I'm your host, Adam Messer, and my special guest today is Jay Harris. We listened to his Following Tonight song earlier, the new track that you got out. So, Jay, when are the next songs coming out?
Yeah, so in September, late September is when we're slating to begin the rollout of the entire EP, which is said in total is 5 songs, just for starters. But within that, there's so many things I'm excited about because there are these different music videos, different visuals that we've put together and spent a lot of time on. And so, certainly next month you'll begin to see that rollout. And I'm excited because one of the things about it, while I want everyone to see, all the hard work I've been putting in, but I also, because I want my career to be, a not necessarily a blueprint, but just an example of one route anyone aspiring to be in this industry can take. I'm excited for them to see not just the things that I put out, but how the rollout is strategically placed, how one thing comes before the other, but after, something that precedes it, so on and so forth, because the people that are truly interested in this industry, they're paying attention to that. Oh, well, I see he released, this particular promo or this particular opportunity, at this particular time, and it complemented the release of that, you know what I mean? Just the whole strategy and the layout. And I can't wait for everyone to see, but that'll start happening in September.
I think it's interesting because, like I said, I used to work for a record store back in the day, and they would have, I think it was like Tuesdays were like the release days. And so today, like in today's world, I mean, you got artists that they'll drop something like midnight and they're like boom.
Right.
Or they might have something
yeah.
up for like a day. It's just like only available for like a day, you know? And they do all kinds of crazy stuff. And I think it's to garner attention, you know, and I get it. But I think, you know, when you want people to listen to it. You know, you want people to listen or read your books or whatever, you know, you're doing out there. You watch your movies or, you know, whatever. And so I like the fact that you're saying, hey, you know what? I'm not just trying to do a gotcha moment, you know, get your attention and boom, boom, boom and move on.
Right.
I like the fact that you're thinking about your listener, you're thinking about, you know, your audience and saying, hey, you know what? I want you to hear and enjoy this first song. And then I want to, you know, invite you into my world of, you know, this is my musical world, you know?
Right. Yeah,
I like the fact that you want to do that because, you know, to me, that's like a way to build a relationship, you know, because you got folks out there who are going to be listening and they're going to say, wow, okay, I like this. Let me hear the next one, you know? And because of that 5 to 10 second attention span, you know, when people like something that first time, they're going to be like, they're going to give you a little bit more attention the next time.
Exactly. That's so true. One thing you mentioned is like building that relationship and you know, in this industry and industries across the board, building relationships, it's a, you know, I said it's like a trifecta effect because you're building a relationship with the people that you're working with on your team or that you're trying to get on your team, but you're also, you know, you have to keep the relationship with yourself in a positive place, but also your relationship with your consumers or your audience or your fan base or your supporters is important as well. And I try to find ways, you know, to connect with my audience, to engage with them, because a part about being authentic is it creates this sense of relatability with others. And that's what draws people in, is when they can identify themselves in a situation. So whereas, you know, you might not have been through the exact same situation I've been in, but that person might understand what it's like to, you know, make sacrifices because they're working on another part of their life, you know, so they're not committing to relationships right now because they're committed to building their career. So and then being able to talk to someone, and I can't talk to every single person, but being able to share on platforms like yours today, or, you know, any interviews that I've done and say, hey, it's not just roses and you know, clouds to get here, but it's well worth it. And I can identify with people right where they are because I've been exactly where you've been before. And so again, that's a part of building the relationship with your supporters and the watchers or the listeners. And I think that's extremely important.
I could not agree with you more. I mean, like, how do I say this? It is not about connecting with masses of people. It is about connecting with individuals, right?
Exactly.
And, I mean, I think we all want the, you know, 1 million followers or whatever. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Just same thing, like wanting to, you know, make $1 million with the books or whatever. I get it. But it's connecting with each person, you know, building it up from that way. Because, I mean, you know, it can be rewarding. It can also be devastating. You know, like when you have something that you put so much time and effort into and then it falls flat and you're like, well, how do you pick yourself up from there?
Exactly.
You know, so what do you say for folks like that, Jay? I mean, because, you know, it does happen. I mean, you could have the best product, you could have the best thing, you could have whatever is like the best of whatever. You put it all out there and it just kind of falls flat.
Yeah.
So that actually happened to me with my book. I put a book out earlier this year and had no reception. The first part of the first book that I put out, you know, got a lot of great feedback and stuff. The second one, nothing. It was just kind of flat.
Gotcha.
So what do you say to folks? Because I know I'm not the only one that's done that, but
Absolutely. Now, you know, I put out a song before I was much younger and inexperienced. I put out a song before, and I can speak for myself and tell you that I put out the song, number one, because I know I could sing, and that's just something that comes naturally to me, so on and so forth. But I thought that I created the song thinking, when I release this song, that's it. I'm gone. I'm out of there. I'm
taking off.
I'm taking off.
Yeah.
You know, Mom, grab my fur coat and sunglasses, because when I drop this song, you know, I am going to blow up from here. in the song, it was received, good, by people who knew the songs out, but I didn't get that, great success that I thought I would get. And I was so like, well, wait a minute. And this is not for, in everybody's case, but for me, it was a matter of, I had to, again, like I said earlier, I had to reevaluate what I was doing and why I was doing it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this, for myself, I've learned that, in my case, because I was expecting a lot of recognition and I was expecting monetary reward, so on and so forth. For me, I learned if I create something specifically for recognition and monetary value, like for money or fame, I can assure you, it's a dangerous place to be, because now you're putting your validity and you're putting your worth into the hands of things that change all the time, and things that really don't have substantial value, because the market is always changing and people's opinions are always changing. So I've learned to not put my validity in those fickle things. But now my approach has been, number one, I love music, and I love music, and
right.
I want people to see my love of music, but I want to inspire other people to reach their goals, not just in music, but whatever it is they want to do. But now my one of my main goals is to create a quality product, of course, but to be able to connect with other people, and truly inspire them to reach, whatever goals that they want to reach. And I've had so much more success because I reevaluated the reason why I was doing what I was doing. And I now appreciate when that one person, it may not be millions, but one person comes to me and say, your career, has, what you created inspired me to go after my dreams, or it inspired me in this way or that way. And those things to me mean so much more than, just the recognition or monetary things, because now I'm actually, I'm having an effect on people's lives, which is me doing my part with contributing to changing the world, one person at a time. Yeah. And so I had to reevaluate why I do, what I do. And I had to give myself a break and appreciate, whereas it may not be millions, but the people that do take, value in what I do, I had to appreciate, if it's just one, or if it's two, or if it's just, 1,000, I appreciate, the effect that it has on those people. Now, of course, there are, operational and logistical things you can look at. I reevaluated some marketing things I did. I reevaluated my approach to my writing style with, music, or if, you want to look at all those things, of course, but when you've given something your best and you've given it the best that you had, you have to take those small wins, and give yourself a break. And in this world and this climate of creativity, things that you created, they may not pop off right away, and then that thing will come right back around to you in months or years. It's crazy, because there's this singer, who's an R&B singer, her name is Ella May, that I got a chance to meet her last year at a studio, recording studio here in Atlanta, and she had this song called Boot Up. Everybody was singing it, and it was just this huge thing, and it went to #1. And she, said in that session that I was in that she created that song and released it. Like, she created it 2 years ago before, it became this big phenomenon, and then she released it a year before it got so huge. And I mean, it was everywhere. I'm hearing people saying boot up. I'm like, oh my God, I'm tired of hearing this.
Yeah.
But I love, it was so interesting to me, that's something that came back around from something that she had created a year prior. So when you allow yourself to be appreciative for just the little things, or just the few in numbers that appreciate what you do, and you've given it the best, attempt that you can, that's got to be enough for you to keep moving and keep going, because you're having an effect on others. And so that's one approach that I've taken.
I think that's a great way to look at it. I do. I really think it's a great way to look at it. Everybody, you're tuning in today to WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. I'll tell you what I did with that was, so the first book that I put out, I didn't have hundreds and hundreds of reviews, but I had, a good bit of, feedback and reviews and stuff like that. When I released the second one, I figured out that talk about the marketing and, all the operational stuff or whatever. I figured out that I didn't do any of the stuff that I needed to do to make the book launch successful. Right. I didn't do any lead up stuff. I didn't do any kind of generating interest and that kind of stuff. I just put it out there and I was like, boom, here it goes.
Yeah, I got you.
The other thing I messed up on was when I did the first one, it was supposed to be like little 10,000 chapter books, 10,000 word chapter books. And so it was going to be like that. Well, I ended up changing it to where the first one's like a 10,000 word chapter book. The second one is like a 50,000 word book. And I missed the opportunity of the window to release it. So it's like I didn't release it for like another year or so, right? So what I learned from that, failed book launch was I still feel like it's a good story. I really do.
Right.
But what I did was I've got a new book coming out. It's an anthology. And what I've been doing is, instead of saying, okay, I started talking about doing stuff during the pandemic. I started a small printing press, no, not a printing press, a small print publishing company called Valhalla Books.
Gotcha.
Because I was okay, well, how can I make this process better? How can I improve and make this better than whatever I did before? So I use that as a way to learn from that. Talk to other people, professionals in the industry, trying to figure out what works. And I decided same thing, like with the indie stuff. I decided, hey, you know what, I want to go this route because I would be doing the same thing with a big publishing house anyway. If I'd have to do the same things that I'm doing now, but I wouldn't be calling the shots.
So true.
And so I decided to start my own thing, but I had to take that in stride. Like, okay, well, you know what? Yeah. It's me. I'm accountable for that. If nobody reads my book, it's
good.
Me. It's on me.
That's so good.
So
that's so good that you say that, because when you're able to be realistic with yourself about where you may have missed a mark or an area of opportunity that that you see for yourself. Because like I said, I released a song before all on my own with no help from anyone, and like I said, it didn't really do anything. And I literally had to look at that whole thing. And honestly, one of the biggest things that I learned when I tried to do it all on my own was that marketing piece. I think the song, it was okay. Obviously I've grown so much since then, but an opportunity that I missed was that lead up marketing, that post marketing, and the marketing within, and just having things planned to continuously keep this product in people's faces and in their purview. And so it's good. And so now with this project, I have a team and things like that to help me, but I'm focusing so much on that outreach, because now I know I've made a great product. Now I've really focused on making sure I'm doing those interviews and doing those different, I was on a few panels and for different things that are going on in the world, and just all these things, just making sure that I'm continuously putting my product out there, and I'm staying in front of my consumers. Their face, like you said, their attention span is very short, but when something keeps reoccurring, you find yourself kind of looking into it. This music recording, record labels do this a lot, where sometimes an artist may not be as talented. They may not even be as successful financially as you would think. But when the label decides this is the person they want to make a superstar, and all superstars are not wealthy, they will make sure that they're played on every radio station. You're seeing them in different commercials. You're seeing them everywhere. They just make sure that that artist or that song stays on the radio. You might hear a song first, I'm like, oh, I hate that. But after it won't stop coming on the radio so much, you find yourself thinking, well, it's not that bad because I keep hearing, I keep seeing it. But you're staying in front of the consumer's face. So it's great that you were able to recognize your areas of opportunity and implement that going forward.
Yeah, and the other thing, there's a lot of other factors too. I mean, like, you know, we're competing against big brands all day long,
Absolutely.
every day.
Yep.
I mean, you
Yep.
know, we're competing against, you know, people's names on shirts and shoes,
Yeah.
and you know,
Yeah.
that's we're so sold to on a day in and day out basis, you know, that we don't even think about it, you know. But like
Yeah.
you said, with repetition, you know, big labels are able to invest, and if they say, hey, you know, you're the face, you're gonna be the next big thing, you're gonna be the
Yep.
next big thing. You know,
Exactly.
that's just how it is, and because they control what we hear, and they control, you know, because there's a whole big machine behind it, you know. But
Exactly.
when you're an indie and you're trying to push your
Yep.
product out there, you know, I feel like with the stuff you're talking about, you know, doing the interviews and stuff like that. So I'll give you an example of what I did with this book launch. The book's not coming out until October, but what I've done is all of the authors that are with the book, I have created an author page for them that's on my website.
Perfect.
I've done an author interview with each one of them. I also have a book blurb and a independent graphic for each one of them for their story.
Nice.
And so I've been using like the lead up to that for, you know, like for example, when I go home tonight, I've got another interview that I'm going to be publishing. It's already the weird thing about it is it's already published, right? It's already on the website. But each week I've been promoting one of these interviews.
That's perfect.
Leading up
That's
to
so
it.
perfect.
And
That's so perfect. That's so perfect.
yeah, I'm getting like a trickle effect from, you know, the authors and their following, you know, going back into it. And something else, something else that I learned, like doing the interviews or whatever, for example, you know, so like I do interviews. I'm a media person, right? I'm a journalist.
Right.
So I do interviews. So I'm not bragging here, everybody, but I'm booked up through December with this show. Okay. And, you know, so having the opportunity to be able to talk to you today, it was, you know, just a blessing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I haven't always been booked up like that. You know, there's been times where like I'll have, you know, something will happen and whatever and yada, yada, yada. And, you know, things happen.
I love it. I'm like, it's like music because, you know, my degree is in journalism, mass communication, and I specialize in media communication.
Oh, so wow.
I love, so I understand where it comes from. And I love that you are implementing your show. Like what you have is a platform that you can continuously talk about your product, you know, in a different way, talking with those different authors and they're following it. It's a win. You know, the people that are going to be listening to this or maybe listening now or what will be listening to it that are my followers are going to hear about you and your followers are going to hear about me. You know what I mean? It's
and not in a way where we're trying to sell them. You know, that's what I love about you know, being able to do this show because, you know, yes, we're talking about like what we're doing, but we're not trying to beat them up with saying, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff.
Nope.
You know, and like I love the fact that, you know, you talk about the relationships and connecting with people. And, you know, that to me is how we make a difference in this world of like huge, massive consumerism. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. If somebody said, "Hey, Adam, we're going to give you $1 million contract for your next book," I would say yes. Yeah, you know, I'm not gonna lie.
Here's my number.
I'm like yes, but until that point, it's gonna be you know just doing the grind and you know getting things done.
Exactly.
Dude, we got like 2 minutes left. Where can people check out? I know, man. I'm like, what? Where can people check out the Falling Tonight new track that you got?
Yeah, so you can find Falling Tonight, my new single, on all digital music platforms such as iTunes and Spotify and Pandora. Amazon Music, but you can also find out about my music and more about me, like the upcoming mentorship program, as well as the upcoming music project on my Instagram at official J Harris.
And I love the fact that you are doing that mentorship program. I mean, your music's really good too. I love the song.
Thank you.
But the fact that you know you're investing in the community and you're giving back. You know, I love helping other people as much as possible. I love, trying to help them with, leveraging what they have and how they can move forward. Right. Let me put it this way. I love talking with creative people who are the doers, like you. Yes. There are a lot of folks out there, they say, like, I've got a dream or I've got this or that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, like, sometimes people ask me, well, when can I consider myself a writer? I say, well, do you write? Mm-hmm. No. Well, you got to do the work, so.
Exactly.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for being on the show today, and I really appreciate it.
Me. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Okay, and then this show will be available on the podcast later on. I'll send you the link to it and all, so. All right, everybody.
Perfect.
Thank you for tuning in today. You've been listening to The Adam Messer Show, and I'm your host, Adam Messer. My special guest today is musician, artist, actor, model, producer, Jay Harris. So awesome. All right, everybody.
This is WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU